Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, Certificate Programs, Certificate in Food and Nutrition, CFN to your food and its utilization. Block 4 Nutrition from School Age to Old Age, Unit-14 Nutrition through Life Cycle Old Age. In Unit 14, you will learn about physiological, psychological, emotional, occupational changes occurring in old age and their effect on nutritional needs. 14.0 Objectives. After studying this unit, you will be able to times explain the process of aging and the changes that occur when we age. Times state the changes in nutrient requirements with advancing years. Times identify the special needs of elderly, and times plan meals to meet the nutritional needs of the elderly. 14.1 Introduction. In the last unit, you learnt about the requirements of adults. You have observed that the requirements vary with occupation. You must have noticed that there are changes in appearance, mental outlook, and body functions of people as they move from adulthood to middle age and then to old age. You would certainly like to know what happens when people age and how it affects the nutritional needs of the elderly amongst your family member. You would also like to know about the special needs of these persons and how to meet these to ensure their good health. 14.2 Aging and individual phenomena. Variations in aging. You must have noticed the changes that occur with age in people around you. For example, some lose their teeth and need dentures, others complain about difficulties in digestion. The changes vary from one person to another. But one thing is worth noting, that aging is a continuous process. It starts at birth and continues throughout our life. The process is hastened in later years of life. Another thing you may have noted is that no two persons of say 60 or 65 years look alike. Some may look 10 years younger, others a few years older than they are. In other words, their actual age, which is also known as chronological age, does not coincide with their biological age. It is hard to specify which birthday makes you aged. You must have seen people who are still active when they are 70 years old, and others who are feeble at 60. What is it that accounts for such a difference? How do you judge age? Age can be judged by your activity, agility, endurance, muscle coordination, and attitudes, than by the number of years you have existed. Some of the factors which affect aging can be controlled by you. For instance, your food selection to meet your body's needs through youth, adulthood, and middle age can be an asset. Leading an active life may help you to be agile and retain your muscle coordination. A happy, positive attitude may help you to face difficult situations with composure and dignity. One of the factors which affects aging is heredity. If your parents live to a ripe old age, you have a fair chance of doing the same, provided you have retained their healthy way of living. On the contrary, if they suffered from many of the common ills of older people, such as fatigue, slow recovery from illness, sleeplessness, worry, and even overweight, it could be traced to poor food habits and a resultant poor nutritional state. You could avoid these handicaps and take steps towards a healthier you. As you grow older, your body is the sum total of the care, use, misuse, or neglect it has undergone. The illness or diseases that you may have suffered also leave their mark. If you suffered accidents, the cumulative effect of these on the body is felt in old age. The infection, diarrhea, dysentery, etc., you may have suffered due to environmental factors also leave their mark on certain systems of the body. How well the need of the body was met by foods you ate throughout the years affects not only the aging process, but also your resistance to disease. Since these factors vary from one person to another, there are greater variations in the nutrition and health status of old people than in young people. You will realize that nutritional care of this age group is very much based on individual needs. Let us understand the physiological changes which occur with age. Check your progress exercise 1. 1. How do you judge the age of a person? 2. Why is aging an individual phenomenon? You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. 14.3 Physiological changes in later years. Some changes occur in our body, mind, social and economic status with age. If you understand these, you can help the elderly in your family and neighborhood to adjust food intake accordingly. Physiological changes associated with aging includes the changes in body composition where the proportion of lean body mass, predominantly the muscle mass, decreases while the proportion of fat mass and visceral fat increases. Studies have shown that between 50 and 80 years muscle mass declines by around 30% and muscle strength reduces by 50%. Sarcopenia is the age-related loss of muscle mass, strength and function and can significantly affect the quality of life of elderly by decreasing mobility, increasing risk of falls and altering metabolic rates. The digestive system undergoes considerable change with age. The amount of acid and digestive enzymes secreted by gastric glands decreases. Thus, the digestion and absorption of nutrients is decreased. About 10% of the elderly suffer from reduced secretion of hydrochloric acid or gastric acid. This takes away the first line of defense of the body, since gastric acid acts as an antiseptic also. As a result, you hear about frequent diarrhea and upsets due to increased infections in this age group. The movement of the alimentary tract becomes sluggish with age. Food stagnates, bowels do not move regularly, and constipation is a common problem. It may have been habitually treated with drugs, further reducing its activity. As you noted in Unit 4, proper mastication helps the process of digestion of food. You observe that with teeth fallen, decayed or functionless, food is often swallowed than chewed by the elderly members of your family. If they have poorly fitted dentures, they do not use these. You will realize that the dentures should be well-fitting and checked regularly to ensure proper chewing of food to help its utilization in the body. You find that the ability to smell and note differences in taste reduces with age, which leads to decreased enjoyment of food. Please note that a good diet and physical activity throughout your life is an insurance that carries many benefits. Good eating habits in early life will lead you to a vigorous, mature youth. If you continue these, it will extend your years of useful life and delay or prevent the appearance of many of the so-called symptoms of old age. Check your progress exercise 2. 1. List the physiological changes that occur in later years of life. 14.4 Nutrition-related problems of old age. The elderly are at risk of poor nutrition due to economic pressures, poor dentition, reduced mobility, and inadequate food consumptions. We will briefly discuss the various nutrition-related problems of old age. 1. Osteoporosis. It is a condition in which the person has an increased chance of bone fractures. Exercise along with adequate intake of calcium and vitamin D is a preventive measure. 2. Obesity. Some elderly are obese because their consumption of calories has not decreased, though there is a steady decrease in calories requirements, and such obese people are more prone to diabetes and others degenerative diseases. 3. Anemia. Anemia may be caused by low dietary intake of iron, impaired absorption, and blood loss. 4. Malnutrition. Important causes of malnutrition during old age are poverty, inability to move around, chronic diseases, social isolation, and lack of knowledge of adequate preparation of meals. 5. Constipation. Constipation may be caused by lack of exercise, a low fiber diet, and not drinking enough fluids. By now you are aware about the physiological changes and problems of old age. So let us now study how these changes influence the nutritional needs of the elderly. 14. 5 nutritional needs of elderly. Please remember, you need the same nutrients that you needed earlier in this stage of life also. One change that definitely accompanies the aging process is a decreased energy need. With age, your basal metabolism and activities are slowing down. On an average, men and women in the 60 to 75 years age span need 400 to 500 calories less per day than they did before this stage. According to the Nutrient Requirement for Indians, 2020, the estimated energy requirement, ER, based on BMR and physical activity levels, for sedentary elderly man and woman weighing 65 kilograms and 55 kilograms are 1699 kcal and 1477 kcal respectively, which are rounded off to 1700 kilocalories for man and 1500 kcal for women. You may have noticed that elderly persons in your or in your neighbor's family eat much smaller amounts than others in the family. Now you know why. The need for other nutrients is not altered except vitamin D and calcium. An RDA of 800 IU of vitamin D is recommended for population above 60 years. The need of the body for proteins does not change with age. It is important to take sufficient foods from group 2 to meet the protein need. Dietary fat should meet 30 to 40% of total energy intake. Saturated fat should provide not more than 10% of total calories. In selecting foods to meet the energy needs, you will be well advised to reduce the animal fat, ghee, butter, lard in the diet of elderly relatives, since intake of these is associated with higher incidence of atherosclerosis. It is advisable to include some vegetable oils such as groundnut, till, cotton, corn or soya bean. In minerals, common salt, sodium chloride, calcium, iron and iodine may be specially mentioned. Our requirement per day of common salt is based on water intake and is about 1 gram per liter of water. But you habitually consume 5 to 10 grams salt daily, and our normal water intake may be only 1-1.5 liter. So it is advisable to reduce the salt intake and increase water intake. Those who suffer from blood pressure, heart or kidney diseases must further reduce salt intake. In old age, bones lose calcium and become lighter, osteoporosis. As a result, these light bones break easily and fractures are common when your elderly relatives slip and fall. You need to pay special attention to meet the calcium needs of the elderly in your family. The year for elderly man and woman for calcium has been set at 1000 mg and RDA of 1200 mg after adding 10% for age-related bone loss. Iron deficiency is common among those elders who suffer from reduced gastric secretion of acid. Sources of iron are dhals, and leafy vegetables. As you have learnt, taking vitamin C rich foods such as guava, amla, or Mosami help absorption of iron in the body. A good nutritional status of vitamin C and E, antioxidants, among elderly people reduces the risk of cancer, cataracts, and heart diseases. The requirement for fiber and water is the same as in adult life. But as mentioned earlier, constipation is a common problem of the elderly in India. Therefore, you must see that the elderly do take adequate amounts of foods from group 3 and drink sufficient amount of water to ensure proper utilization of food and elimination of waste. Balanced diet for elderly man and woman for a day is depicted in Table 14.1 and Table 14.2. These balanced diets are based on RDA published by ICMR, 1998. Amounts in individual food groups may vary to constitute a balanced diet, depending on the requirements mentioned earlier in this section. You may have noticed that the requirements for energy are substantially reduced in new ICMR 2020 guidelines. Accordingly, amount in food groups need to be decreased to obtain balanced diet. Table 14.1 Balanced diet for elderly person for a day. Look at the screen for table content. Table 14.2 Balanced diet for an elderly woman. Look at the screen for table content. Check your progress. Exercise 3. 1. How do nutritional needs of the elderly vary from those of adults? 2. Plan a menu for a 70-year-old vegetarian lady who has ill-fitting dentures. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. 14.6 Special needs of elderly. As you have just read, a number of changes affect the elderly people. The extent of these changes varies from one person to another. You must remember that food and nutritional care of the elderly has to be on an individual basis. It is good for you to remember that the healthy person needs no special dietary change in old age, except reduction in energy intake. How would you know if the energy intake meets the energy need? A good guide is to be sure that the person maintains his normal weight at the age of 25 for the rest of his life. Of course, here you presume that the person had desirable weight for height at 25 years of age. While this is true of some, you may have observed older people who actually need to reduce. At the other extreme, you have elderly people who do not meet their energy needs. Among those who live for over 70 years of age, you may have noted some who are extremely underweight. You can help these people to regain normal weight after you find out the reasons for their reduced intake. It is good to remind them that food is cheaper than drugs, medicine, and proper food intake can be an insurance against ill health. Some of the special needs of the elderly are due to physical problems. Some of them lack teeth or have poorly fitting dentures and need foods which are soft-cooked and easy to swallow. To ensure that they take sufficient amount of vegetables, these have to be pressure-cooked and at times mashed and blended. Otherwise, they may tend to eat only rice and have a nutritionally restricted diet. You find that the ability to absorb and retain calcium from foods is reduced with age because old people tend to be inactive and stay indoors. To ensure that the calcium and phosphorus in the diet is properly absorbed and utilized, you should encourage your elderly relatives to take a walk in the sunlight. Increased physical activity and exposure to sunlight, be it for work or recreation, decreases chances of getting osteoporosis, a bone disorder in which there is a general decrease in total bone mass. You will be interested to know that your grandmother's need for calcium is likely to be slightly greater than that of grandfathers. But both do need to take sufficient calcium in their diet. Milk is the food of choice for the elderly, as also the young. It is easy to drink even for those who have no teeth. Another good source is roasted and ground ragi, nechani, as a snack. When milk and milk products are not well tolerated, calcium may be taken in the form of calcium gluconate or lactate. Socioeconomic realities, as you realize, this is the stage of life when those who were working retire. Due to retirement, there is generally a reduction in income and decrease in physical activity. If you develop hobbies at an earlier stage to utilize your leisure hours, you will be able to spend your time in an enjoyable manner. Whatever the scientific considerations, the factor of economics remains the most important one. Why you notice the affluent eating excess of food, not necessarily nutritionally right. Most of the elderly people in India have restricted income and hence limited money for food. There is a change in the household setup as the younger generation takes charge and the former head has to play a secondary role. The elderly housewife is no longer the mistress of the household, as the daughter-in-law may take over the charge. Though these are natural changes, how you handle these will affect you, and often your food intake. Food for the elderly has economic implications. How shall we impress on them and you who look after them that providing proper food is a sound investment in health? How many realize this? You may realize that with most people, food is a problem of economic adjustments. You need to ensure use of foods from all the food groups in the diet to prevent the deficiencies prevalent in elderly people. As you remember, these foods would help to meet the protein, mineral and vitamin needs of the elderly. Besides, Group 3 provides fiber, which would help to improve the movement of food in the alimentary tract and prevent constipation. Ancillary factors, you will appreciate that a proper philosophy regarding food is needed at this stage. One should eat to live, not live to eat. As the elderly people have a lot of time, they feel like eating many times a day. To take care of this, the total food needed in the day should be spaced out into smaller meals 4 to 5 times a day. At the elderly stage of life, one cannot take liberty with food as one used to in one's younger days. One has to resist temptations to eat fried and sweet foods because one's sluggish digestion system may get overloaded. One also needs to drink a lot of water to help efficient movement of food in the body. You, who look after the elderly, need to remember that food is one of the few enjoyments one has in old age. Therefore, you must pay extra attention to ensure that the atmosphere at mealtime be happy and relaxed. Remember how these elderly people took care of your likes and dislikes when you were young. It is your turn now to do the same to them. Extra attention must be paid to prepare soft foods for those with teeth problems. Remember, health is not a condition of matter, but of mind too. Anxiety and worries ruin digestion and health. You will notice change of moods, obstinacies in the elderly around you. It needs patience on your part to look after them. Sound common sense and a sunny temperament are your best assets in caring for your aged relatives. Let us see how we can use this knowledge to plan and prepare acceptable meals for the elderly. If you, the elderly citizen, had saved and provided for the needs of this stage, you can maintain your lifestyle and enjoy the evening of your life, as Robert Browning has said in the Rabbi Ben Ezra. Grow old along with me, the best is yet to be. The last of life, for which the first was made. Check your progress exercise 4. 1. What is osteoporosis? 2. Explain the socio-economic aspects of the eating needs of the elderly. 3. Describe the special needs of the elderly people. 14.7 Planning meals for elderly. In planning meals for the aged, you need to ensure that their special needs are met. Some of the aspects that need attention are: times. Be sure to include foods from all the groups mentioned in Unit 3. Times. Be sure to include minimum number of servings of each food group too. Maintain normal body weight. Times. Include fruits which supply vitamin C. Times. Pressure cook the foods to ensure soft texture. Times. Include milk, ragi, till or small fish to meet calcium needs. Times. Avoid fried foods, sweets, syrups, soft drinks, etc. Times. Include 5 to 6 glasses of water daily. Times. Ensure happy and relaxed atmosphere at meal times. With these aspects in view, you can plan the menu to meet the needs of the elderly according to the Daily Food Guide, Unit 3. You can select Group 1 and to foods as per pattern of the family. You can select the vegetables and fruits according to seasonal availability and choice of the person. The amount of foods from the 3 groups would vary with the energy needs of the person and any individual health problems he/she may have. Since eating is a social event, you may have observed that persons living alone tend to eat poorer diets than couples. You will be interested to know that in Western countries they have tried to solve this problem by serving at least one hot meal per day for the elderly in the community setting. Another program is Meals on Wheels, in which a meal is delivered home for the elderly. With the increase in the nuclear pattern of the family, we may have to plan such services in the near future for our elderly citizens. Practical Activity 1. 1. Interview an elderly person in your neighborhood and record the menu and food intake of that person. 2. Has the person included foods from all groups? 3. What are the number of servings from each group? 4. Do you think he/she meets the daily requirements? 5. If not, what advice would you give for modifying the diet within the same cost? 6. Please record the weight and height of the person. Is the person normal, underweight or overweight? 14.8 Let us sum up. You have learned that the effects of aging vary from one person to another. So, the changes in your body due to aging do not coincide with your age. Your body spends less energy as you grow older. Therefore, energy intake needs to be monitored to avoid overweight and underweight. You must consider the special needs of the elderly in planning and serving meals to the elderly. The elderly need to plan their retirement and develop leisure activities to ensure a happy and healthy life to the end. 14.9 Glossary. Cumulative, by successive additions. Heredity, the tendency of transmitting qualities from parents to offsprings, children. Leisure, time at one's own disposal. Physiological changes. Changes in normal functions of living beings. Osteoporosis, a bone disorder, characterized by a general decrease in total bone mass, which tends to occur in older persons. 14.10 Answers to check your progress. Exercises. Check your progress. Exercise 1. 1. Age can be judged by the person's activity, agility, endurance, muscle coordination and attitudes. 2. Aging depends on a number of factors, such as heredity, illness or disease, accidents, diet, amount of activity, temperament, and so on. Since these factors differ from person to person, aging varies from one individual to another. Check your progress exercise 2. 1. Times digestion and absorption of nutrients is decreased as secretion of gastric acids is reduced. Times constipation occurs as movement of the alimentary tract becomes sluggish. Times due to falling teeth mastication is not adequate. Check your progress exercise 3. 1. Energy requirements are decreased during old age as compared to adulthood. 2. Menu for a 70 years old woman with poor dentures. Breakfast, porridge with milk, half-boiled egg, orange juice. Mid-morning, tea. Lunch, khichdi, green leafy vegetables, stewed guava. Tea, upma or idli, tea. Dinner, vegetable soup, soft cooked rice, dal, mashed potato, curd. Check your progress exercise 4. 1. Osteoporosis is a bone disorder in which there is general decrease in total bone mass. 2. Elderly people have decreased incomes as by that stage in life they have retired. This means limited money for food. The elderly are also no longer in charge of the household as the younger generation takes over from them. Therefore, the needs of the elderly have socio-economic implication. 3. At the elderly stage, one needs to drink a lot of water to help efficient movement of food in the body. The atmosphere at meal times should be happy and relaxed. Extra attention should be paid to prepare soft foods and easily digestible foods. Elderly persons should be looked after with patience and common sense, as they tend to be moody and obstinate. Total food needed in the day should be spaced out into smaller meals. Foods from all three food groups must be included in the diet to provide nutrients as well as fiber. Thank you. We will see you in the next video.